Imagine a world where every rustle in the grass, every shadow, every distant roar could mean the end. For millions of years, our ancestors lived on a razor's edge. But where did they stand? Were they the ones doing the hunting, or were they constantly looking over their shoulders? Picture a vast, untamed landscape, stretching further than the eye can see. No cities, no farms, no safety nets. This was the stage for humanity's earliest chapters, a drama played out with survival as the ultimate prize. We're talking about the deep past, a time when our lineage was just beginning to etch its mark on the planet. The core question for them, day in and day out, wasn't about building or creating, but simply this: live or die. This isn't just about dusty bones or ancient theories. This is about us. It's about understanding the very DNA of human resilience, the fierce spirit that forged our species in the crucible of prehistoric Africa. By exploring their struggle, we unlock a deeper appreciation for the courage and ingenuity that beats in every one of our hearts today. Step back with me, way back. Millions of years ago, when our earliest hominid ancestors took their first tentative steps on the African savanna, they weren't the dominant force. Far from it. Picture creatures of immense size and terrifying power. Saber-toothed cats, colossal hyenas, massive bears, and predatory birds with wingspans that could blot out the sun. In this brutal ecosystem, our ancestors were often small, relatively slow, and lacked natural weapons like sharp claws or powerful fangs. They were vulnerable, an easy target for virtually everything bigger and meaner. Think about that primal fear. Every dawn brought the fresh challenge of finding food without becoming food. Their days weren't filled with planning grand hunts, but with vigilance, with scanning the horizon, with listening for the slightest telltale sign of danger. They were masters of observation, driven by the most fundamental instinct, survival. Their lives were a constant negotiation with peril, a test of wit against raw, brute strength. They scavenged what they could, snatching scraps left by larger predators, relying on their keen senses and nascent intelligence just to make it through another day. It was a harrowing existence, one where the line between life and death was incredibly thin. The idea of being the hunter must have felt like a distant, almost impossible dream. But here's where the story takes a remarkable turn. Our ancestors possessed something unique, something that no other creature on that ancient savanna had: an evolving brain capable of abstract thought, problem-solving, and, crucially, innovation. They started to look at their environment not just as a source of threat, but as a source of solutions. The first stone tools, simple as they were revolutionary. We're talking about rough, chipped rocks, Oldowan tools that could smash bones, cut tough hide, or crack nuts. These weren't weapons in the way we think of them today, but they were game changers. With these crude tools, scavenging became more efficient. They could access marrow, a rich source of fat and protein that larger predators often couldn't reach or chose to ignore. This wasn't about taking down a woolly mammoth. It was about maximizing every opportunity, about turning overlooked resources into fuel for growing brains and bodies. Think of the ingenuity, the sheer determination to take a simple stone and transform it into an extension of their will. These tools were an act of defiance against their physical limitations. They weren't just picking up rocks. They were picking up the future, piece by piece. It was the first undeniable step away from being purely hunted and towards asserting some control over their brutal world. Individual survival in that prehistoric landscape was a near impossible feat. But humans, as we know, are profoundly social creatures. And this social instinct, this ability to cooperate, became one of our most potent weapons. Imagine a small group of early humans, perhaps a dozen or so, facing down a large, intimidating animal. Individually, they stood no chance. Together, though, they represented a coordinated threat, a thinking, planning force. This was the dawn of organized hunting. They learned to communicate, even if through gestures and rudimentary sounds, to coordinate their movements. They developed strategies, trapping animals, driving them into natural ambushes or using persistence hunting, an incredibly demanding technique where a group would relentlessly track and chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. This wasn't about brute force. It was about collective intelligence, stamina, and an understanding of animal behavior. The shared risk fostered powerful bonds, strengthening their communities and reinforcing their ability to face an incredibly dangerous world. Every successful hunt was a testament to their unity, a victory not just of skill, but of solidarity. It transformed them from isolated targets into a formidable collective, proving that cooperation could indeed conquer chaos. Even with tools and teamwork, the world remained a terrifying place. While our ancestors grew bolder, honed their hunting skills, and expanded their territories, they never truly escaped the specter of being prey. Lions, leopards, giant hyenas, and other formidable carnivores still roamed the landscape, especially under the cloak of night. Imagine settling down after a long, arduous day, the crackling fire offering some comfort, but still, every snap of a twig, every distant roar, would send a shiver down your spine. The fear wasn't just of being attacked. It was of being outsmarted, of a predator exploiting a moment of weakness or inattention. They had to be constantly vigilant. Choosing a campsite meant finding elevated ground, a cave, or a spot near water that offered a clear view and escape routes. They learned to read the signs of the wild, the tracks, the calls of other animals, the scent in the air, interpreting them as a complex warning system. This constant threat refined their senses and sharpened their instincts. It wasn't about conquering fear, but living with it, using it as a tool for survival. This relentless pressure, the ever-present danger, paradoxically spurred on their intelligence and adaptability. It forced them to evolve faster, to think smarter, and to develop strategies that allowed them to navigate a world that still saw them as potential dinner. Then came fire. Not just fire, but controlled fire. This wasn't just a discovery. It was a revelation. A profound shift in the human experience. Imagine the scene, a circle of early humans huddled around a flickering flame. The darkness, which once held unimaginable terror, was pushed back. Predators, most of them instinctively afraid of fire, were kept at bay. The warmth offered comfort in cold nights, extending their habitable zones into new, colder regions. But the impact went far beyond physical safety and comfort. Fire transformed food. Cooking meat and plant matter made it easier to digest, releasing more nutrients and reducing the energy needed for chewing. This nutrient boost fueled the development of larger, more complex brains. Around the fire, stories were shared, knowledge was passed down, and social bonds deepened. It became the first true communal gathering place, a symbol of safety and belonging. Fire allowed for longer periods of activity after sunset, for tool-making, for planning, for simply being together. It was the ultimate differentiator, a testament to human ingenuity that forever changed their relationship with the natural world. From mere survival, they began to forge a culture, a shared identity, all illuminated by the dancing flames of the hearth. The journey from being primarily hunted to becoming the planet's apex predator was long, arduous, and punctuated by countless struggles. But with each innovation, from stone tools to spears, from organized hunting to projectile weapons like the atlatl and eventually the bow and arrow, our ancestors ascended. They didn't just adapt, they shaped their environment. Their understanding of animal behavior became incredibly sophisticated. They learned to track prey for days, predict their movements, and exploit their weaknesses with unparalleled cunning. This wasn't just physical dominance. It was intellectual dominance. They started to understand ecosystems, seasonal changes, and how to preserve food. The shift wasn't sudden, but a gradual, relentless climb to the top of the food chain. We see the evidence in ancient art, depicting powerful hunts celebrating their mastery. What began as a desperate struggle for survival against overwhelming odds blossomed into a commanding presence across continents. Our ancestors didn't just survive, they thrived, eventually transforming landscapes and outcompeting every other major predator. Their story isn't just about hunters or hunted. It's about the incredible, inspiring transformation from one to the other, a testament to the unyielding human spirit. So were our prehistoric ancestors hunters or hunted? The truth is they were both. For millions of years, they navigated a world teeming with colossal predators, often more prey than predator, relying on vigilance, sheer wit, and a rapidly developing intellect. But the spark of ingenuity, the development of tools, and the power of cooperation slowly but surely began to shift the balance. Fire brought them safety and transformed their capabilities. Eventually, through relentless innovation and an indomitable spirit, they rose to become the most formidable hunters the world had ever seen. Their journey is a powerful reminder of our species' incredible capacity for resilience, adaptation, and transformation against all odds.